Hello, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the last dispensation. There's a fly there. I'm your host, Troy, and Andrea is in the background here. She doesn't like cameras. Say hi.
Hi.
And so I thought I would be on camera, and I got a new background here that's actually just part of my apartment, our apartment, right, dear?
No, I don't live here. What are you talking about?
Our apartment. So, we were having a conversation, and we want to keep it kind of discreet because we don't want to get in trouble. But we believe that the majority of my audience, would you agree that the majority of my audience probably agrees with us?
Yeah. Certain. Yeah. I mean, depends on what exactly we're talking about. But.
So we're going to be as discreet and probably somewhat vague and ambiguous in order to get a point across without offending, not because we don't want to offend you, because we do. Deep down inside, I want to offend as many people as I possibly can, because if I'm not offending, I'm not doing the Lord's work, am I? Does that make sense?
Well, okay. So basically, the conversation was about living in what's quickly becoming a fallen society. And different people are going to describe that in different ways. But we know as Latter-day Saints that that's what's happening around us. Is society is quickly devolving into something that is no longer driven by values and morals and things that we, as a Judeo-Christian society, are accustomed to. And, evil has become good, good has become evil. All of those sayings that we're so used to in the church, it's true, So
yeah,
that's what we were discussing, and we weren't really trying to discuss any specific things.
Well, even though we were being
but
specific
we were
off
also
camera.
being specific. We're not trying to call any specific lifestyles out or anything, but I know that that's pretty much what people are going to assume that we're talking about. It's not just that, though. It's not just people's personal
Sodom and Gomorrah,
lifestyles.
The Tower of Babel, the flood. What do all these things have in common? They have in common destruction, right?
Right.
And not because our heavenly. So here's what we were getting. Maybe you can get what we were spitting. Did I interrupt you?
Yes, but that's okay.
No, go.
No, because if you don't interrupt me, I'll just keep talking forever.
Okay.
So it's fine.
All right. So we were talking about this young generation and how it's not all completely their fault.
Well, Troy was saying, you were saying, the reason this brought up was because you're like, to you, it's kind of this incomprehensible thing that you don't understand how so many people could be comfortable with.
Excuse me.
That so many people can be comfortable being sinful. That's what you were trying to say. You're like, I don't understand how so many people can be comfortable embracing sinful behaviors, whatever they may be. And so together we came to the conclusion that it's because they don't recognize sinful behavior for what it is, because they weren't raised
right,
or they were raised by a society that is teaching that there is no sin.
Whether it's the media or whatever propaganda machine there is out there.
Or their parents even, because their parents were taught that.
Their teachers.
Right, exactly.
There was a time, though, where we knew what sin was.
Yes.
And we knew that certain lifestyles, I think we can use that term.
Yeah.
And
because
whoever wants to be offended can be offended. And put it in the comments section and we'll have something to talk about.
Well, we're not cornering one type of lifestyle, where there's lots of different kinds of lifestyles that we in the church, members of the church, are like, oh no, we don't do that. It could be as simple as people that want to go to Starbucks every day, or just
right. So here's the thing, though. This specific lifestyles, we knew, let's say, a couple decades ago, that what constituted this as being sin, and we knew that this was sin. Now, not so much. Our younger generation has been bamboozled, sideswiped, hornswoggled. They have been basically brainwashed and manipulated into thinking that what they are doing is not, that there is, what did you say? That there is no sin.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And so they are just living to the best. But here's my dilemma with that, is don't we have something deep down inside that tells us what's right and what's wrong, even if we are being
trained to
embrace think a humanistic, otherwise?
Right. Well, that's the thing is there's agency involved, and I don't know how to explain it. If you're told over and over and over again, or you're seeking out this kind of validation that by choosing to do what thou wilt and embrace humanistic,
right,
hedonistic type behaviors, that it's fine, and all you're doing is living for today because there is no tomorrow, and all of these different kinds of ideals and ideologies that are presented in the world today, you're not going to think that you're doing anything wrong. You're going to buck against that and say, well, the only reason I think that it's wrong is because of the Judeo-Christian traditions of my fathers, that we're so used to, referring back to the Book of Mormon,
Right. So let me read Moroni chapter 7, verse 16. And it talks about this light. And what light am I talking about?
I don't know.
The light of...
Oh, Christ.
The light of Christ. Moroni chapter 7, verse 16. For behold, the Spirit of Christ is given to every man, that he may know good from evil. Wherefore I show unto you the way to judge. For everything which inviteth to do good, and to persuade to believe in Christ, is sent forth by the power and gift of Christ. Wherefore ye may know with a perfect knowledge it is of God. And I would like to add to Scripture. Should I do that? Yeah.
You're fine.
In this way, we may know with a perfect knowledge if it is of the devil as well.
That's true.
So this light of Christ, everybody's born into the world with it. So these young people that are making these decisions, I don't believe that their consciousnesses are necessarily seared, because they haven't had time to sin and get rid of that light of Christ, especially at that young age. So what are they basing their decisions on?
Well,
I mean, conditioning, right?
Yeah, they're basically
But is that an excuse?
Yeah, it is an excuse. It's a very big excuse.
Well, let's read John chapter 1 verses 4 through 9. And the light, verse 5. And the light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehendeth it not. Therefore was a man sent from God. Verse 7. The same, I like verse 5, and I will also read verse 7. The same came for a witness, to bear witness of the light, that all men through him might believe. And then verse 9. That was the true light, which lighteth every man that cometh into the world. So they do have that light of Christ. So I would say...
Well, that's one of the reasons why I was able to join the church.
Because of the light of Christ.
Because I lived not in any kind of oh my gosh, I was such a hedonist or anything. But I did embrace that idea that this is the only life we have. And there is no afterlife. And why should I put all these restraints on me? Why don't I just do what I want? Because, that was what I believed as an atheist.
Do what thou wilt.
Right.
Yeah.
I believed that, as long as I'm not hurting anybody else, I should be allowed to do whatever I want with my body, with my time on this planet. That was what I believed. And that's what is being taught. That's what's being embraced. And it's all about do what you want. Your agency is the most important thing. which, yes, agency is important. But, okay, so the point I was making was, yes, I was born with the light of Christ. I carried it with me. But I hid it. I hid it away to the point where I didn't even recognize it for what it was until I was able to come across the truth,
Right.
So I'm not saying that.
And your conscience wasn't seared. So,
can you explain what you mean by that?
Okay, in other words, you can lose the light of Christ.
Well, yeah.
You can lose the light of Christ through much sinning and transgressing.
Well, do you ever completely lose it, or do you just hide it
away?
Yes,
like psychopaths, sociopaths, mass murderers, they've lost the light of Christ. And we have to judge every case individually.
Right.
And yes, man can judge. God says that we can judge as long as we're judging righteously. But yeah, you can lose it. And my point is that these young people are too young
to have
lost it,
right?
Or lose it at all. They're babes. They're still in their spiritual infancies here on earth,
right?
And haven't had time to mess with the light of Christ. So this scripture right here, John chapter 1 verse 9, that was the true light which lighteth every man that cometh into the world, speaking of the light of Christ. I believe that they do, even if they have been brainwashed a little or manipulated through propaganda, that they still have that light to choose between good and evil. They still have feelings. So there are people that just choose darkness over light.
Yeah.
And there are those who go, wait a minute, there's something not right here. And here's another subject, because we're going to go now, unless you have more to say. If you can, I'm totally for it. That we lived before we came here on another topic we could discuss another time, and that I believe Bruce R. McConkie and other scriptures and other apostles and prophets that talk about our pre-mortal life having very much to do with where we were put in this life. And not necessarily because of something we weren't valiant in. Maybe we were very, very valiant and sent to Africa, and it's third world countries, in other words, where they have a lot of problems and famines and other things that are really bad going on there. Maybe people were so valiant that they were put in positions that they could overcome those situations.
Overcome those kinds of...
not necessarily because they were not valiant.
Right.
Which we were taught to believe at one time.
As a punishment.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting how certain things are trying to find reasons for things. I don't know, it's weird.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's a different topic. I don't know.
Okay.
My brain's still on our first topic. Well, I think, okay, so basically, also before we started recording, Troy was saying something along the lines of, what were you saying, where I was talking about the fall of society being something that has to happen? Oh, you were asking, why don't we have these kind of talks anymore? Really strong, powerful talks, talking against specific
when we were off camera, we were talking about this.
Talking against specific types of sin,
Right.
And how...
Are we wimps now? I mean, that was my response, or my question was, are we being cowards? I mean,
right.
People used, in the old days, you read in the Book of Mormon and even the early pioneers, people went to their death. Joseph Smith went to his death in proclaiming the gospel and the truthfulness of the gospel. Right. And people taught against, look at Abinadi, standing in front of the high priests, telling them about their sins and their wickedness. I mean, he didn't do this in his home only, teaching his family. My question is, when will we get to that point where we need to stand up for what's right, even unto death?
Well,
We're definitely not there yet. And I
No.
said, I'm not there yet.
No, I don't think we're as a group. I don't think we're there yet. I think we're walking a tightrope right now, where the world is becoming so sinful around us that we really don't know how to respond or react, and we really don't know how to walk that tightrope. And so yes, we've taken some of the more I don't know, militant type of behavior, being really voiceful against certain things, and we've kind of relegated that to home education. This is what we teach our children in our homes. We try not to be I don't know how to explain it. It's basically just
Do the best you can.
right. and also, okay, so that was the point. We also have this small, almost like, well, it needs to come to pass type of attitude. It's going to come to pass whether we stand up against it and die for it or not.
Like a necessary evil
It's
that has
something that's going to come to pass.
or necessary evil that has to exhume itself.
Right.
It has to exhume, right?
Exhume.
It's a ugly head.
I don't know if that's the word, but that's okay.
It's not exhume?
I don't think it's exhume.
Isn't that a good word?
It's a good word.
It's a good word.
I don't think it works here, though.
It has to reveal its ugly head.
There you go.
You know how an animal takes its head out of the sand? I think those are only ostriches. All right, let's move on.
I don't even know if ostriches actually do that. It's going to come to pass whether we're
like going we're allowing it to we're egging it on, so to speak, by not doing anything about it.
No, and we're not doing anything about it. There's what can we do about it?
Okay, you're confusing me now, babe.
No, but what can we do about it? No, we're not egging anything on. We're not saying, yes, sin come to pass. We're excited for you. That's egging it on. Okay. But we're not... It's not the 1950s or 60s or 70s anymore. We can't just blatantly stand on a pulpit and preach against these things because we will become condemned. Now, I'm not saying that that's cowardly. I'm just saying, like, what purpose does that do?
When are we going to tiptoe? How long are we going to tiptoe around people's feelings?
I don't think that we do. I think that we
We do. We absolutely do. I mean, that's what I think.
I don't know. I think this is such a murky topic. It's so difficult to even understand it, and even in our homes, because you're going to have so many varying opinions, even from just members in your family, about what is good, what is bad, what is okay, what is acceptable, and are we going to change our attitudes towards certain things? Are we not? How militant should we be? All of these things are questions that we all have to kind of, think about. But the point that I was trying to make earlier was that we have to remember that a fallen society is going to come no matter what, because that's basically the world that we are going to have for Christ to return.
Right. And
so if we believe that we're living in the latter days, then I mean, this is what we expect. So, I don't know.
Very true. I've enjoyed this talk with you.
Yeah, me too.
And Andrea and I were talking about maybe doing this a lot more together, like this. If you enjoyed what we just did, and maybe you got more out of both of us than just my finite brain. I think I did. I get much more out of my... I get much more stimulating learning and conversation from my eternal companion than I do with just myself and just talking myself to you guys. So let us know in the comments section. No. I'm telling you, let us know in the comment. I'm tired of asking and nobody does it. Let us know in the comments section what you think about our conversation, and if you got more out of that than just one person. Anyway, thank you so much, and we'll be doing this again. Oh, and she will be putting out a video soon on the
Perfecting the Saints.
Perfecting the Saints. Thank you.
Yeah, COVID really threw us for a loop on all of this. Like, especially I felt bad because I was like, well, I did 2 videos and that's it.
And one of them got what, like 1,000 views already?
I don't know. I haven't even looked at it.
All right. Thank you so much. Bye bye. That was really good, babe.